Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
Okay, Friday night, Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple guys hanging out, sipping on some whiskey, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. Tonight's episode 33. Basically, for tonight, we're going to be doing our normal Name That Stadium segment. Then we're going to hit the news from this past week. After that, we're going to finish our franchise tag candidate segment by talking about the NFC teams. And then after that, we'll close it off with question of the week. So with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
So far, so good, man. Friday night, time to chill, working our way into the weekend. It's good stuff. And we got plenty to talk about tonight. Obviously, we spent almost 2 hours last week on the AFC side of this. I'm sure tonight will be a fairly lengthy segment as well.
Yeah, especially with the Lions being in the mix.
Yep, we'll be talking about them, that's for sure. All right, well, hey, let's hit up Name That Stadium. So there's no games, yeah, but we've been having fun with the segment. We're going to keep it rolling. Basically, this is part of the show where we explain James is out and about, traveling the country. Every week, he pops a different background or a different stadium in his background, rather. And we're just asking our viewers if you think you know what stadium that is, submit a guess in our comments section. And if you're the first person to get it right, we'll give you a special shout out next week's show. So for this past week, James, where the heck were you at, man?
I think I was at MetLife. No, where was I last week? I think I was
Oh
at
boy,
MetLife.
you're gonna have to look it up, man. You got to be prepared
Yeah.
for this is your segment, man. You got to be ready for this stuff.
Well, I know I have to be ready for it, but then I was thinking maybe I was at Gillette.
You got
So
tripped up, man.
yeah, I was at MetLife last week.
Okay. And it was just a random thing, or did you have any inspiration behind it?
Well, it was twofold. One, we were talking about the AFC last week.
Yep.
And I think the Jets. I think the Jets were the next QB domino to fall, so to speak. So
Okay.
I picked MetLife and used the Jet setup for MetLife in the picture to have it focused on the Jets.
Okay, I gotcha. And so what did you think the quarterback move was going to be? Trading Darnold, trading for a guy, or a combination of the two?
Some combination. I think they're going to get rid of Darnold, make a decision on Darnold. I think they're going to get rid of him. Honestly, whether it's to draft a quarterback this year or in some sort of deal with another team, I think I think Darnold's time in with New York's done.
Yeah, it makes sense. They got a new regime kicking things off. And honestly, Darnold's not really shown anything spectacular. And, it could come around. He's still young, he's still developing. We talked about it. How much of this was Adam Gase just, sucking it up and not getting it done? I don't know. But I think when you're picking this high, you got to keep throwing darts at quarterbacks until you get a guy. Don't hang on too long and then miss your chance. So I would
Yeah,
be moving on.
yeah. An interesting fact I also heard this week is, and I haven't had time to go through and actually figure if it's figure out if it's actually correct, but a bulk majority of the Super Bowl winners, it's like they bring a new coach and new quarterback in at the same time, and those two grow together and ultimately win the Super Bowl. It was like even going back, like Parcells and Phil Simms started out together with the Giants. When Belichick got to the Patriots, that's when they drafted Brady,
Okay.
and stuff like that. They were looking at it, and it was something like half or close to half the Super Bowl winners, the coach and the quarterback started with the team at the same time.
Wow, I didn't know it was that prevalent. I mean, I remember Harbaugh with Flacco, in Baltimore. Yeah, but hey, that's cool, man. That's good stuff. That's a good little factoid.
Yeah, I haven't gone through and verified it, but I mean it makes sense. Like when I was you started thinking about it, it's like like the Parcells and Sims, Brady, Belichick. I mean right there, Brady Belichick. That's what like 10% of the Super Bowl
Yeah,
winners.
that's half of them right there. You
Hmm.
know? All right, cool. Well, hey, so let's move on from Name That Stadium. Let's hit our recap of the past week. And so, just kind of talking about some of the big news in the NFL. We're kind of in that point of the year where sometimes you get some nuggets, sometimes you don't. We're still hearing a lot of quarterback talk. But the thing I wanted to kick it off with was just talking for a minute about the DeMaurice Smith in the NFLPA basically telling agents to collude in free agency this year, trying to get the players the most bang for their buck, knowing that the salary cap's coming down this year. I don't know how you feel about that. I come from the corporate world where collusion is not okay. You're breaking some laws and you get in some trouble. In the NFL, it sounds like, there's nothing prohibiting it, but it just seems like, come on, really? Are we gonna like do this again where we're pitting the players against the league? And I don't know. I think it's bad for business when you start making comments like that and they get out publicly. I mean, you just shouldn't make comments like that, period. But I get it. You want to get these guys the best deal possible, but there's going to be a sacrifice coming from somewhere, and that's the bottom line here. Is when the cap goes down, teams have to cut bad deals. They have to trim wherever they can. Collude all you want, man, but what good is it going to do? People are still going to have to take a cut from probably what they were expecting. It's not. This isn't going to like save every veteran's salary, man. I don't know. It just seems like it was a stupid thing to do, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a stupid comment. And then on the other side, like if the owners were colluding, then that would void the CBA. Like I think it should be equal footing owners players where you have the owners collude to voice the CBA, the agents start colluding to get the deals. There should be repercussions on it.
Yeah,
But
that's a good point.
a good point also I heard this week was like with the new CBA that they negotiated like last offseason and the deal the Players Association came to about the salary cap. This year the salary cap would have been $160 million
Yeah,
if 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 it weren't for those deals, which I was like, I mean it's going down, but that's a huge drop.
yep, yep.
And
Yeah,
I don't think any team would like there'd be like three teams that were under the cap.
everybody would be cutting people and restructuring deals, and it would be a nightmare. Yeah, yeah, everybody except a couple teams basically. But yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, this is one of these tough years. Like everybody in one way or another was affected by the COVID thing. Some people it actually helped them. I've heard from a lot of people that their businesses have been booming, and then some people, they went out of business. And the NFL is no different. They were able to make it through a whole season, which I think was phenomenal. But now they're facing some of the repercussions on the salary cap, and it's tough. You want to do what you can to keep as many of these guys in the league and maintain their livelihood, but there's going to have to be a sacrifice from somewhere.
Yeah, and I would say the NFL's thriving. I mean, do you hear about apparently today the NFL and ESPN or Disney came to an agreement on an extension of their TV package? It's like $2.7 billion a year from Disney just for Monday night,
Yeah,
but it adds in the ABC is going to be into the Super Bowl rotation.
yeah. Okay. I'm fine with all that. And so I don't know. I mean, what does it mean? How do you get more money to the players if that's the concern for the NFLPA? Maybe DeMaurice Smith and the NFLPA should be trying to do more sponsorship deals, get these guys money from a different avenue. I don't know. I mean, the teams don't like that the salary cap's going down either, so
Yeah.
I'm sure they would wish they could keep it where it's at so that they have a chance of staying competitive and signing deals. I mean, especially if you're like New Orleans, man, and you're like $1 zillion over, you don't want to be dealing with us. So,
Yeah, but
just silly
New
stuff.
Orleans, New Orleans seems to be pretty good at finagling the cap. I forget who the GM is there, but that's like all I've been hearing this week is how New Orleans can seem to fit like the cap. Like, who cares how much they're over? They'll figure it out and
Yeah.
renegotiate deals and move money around and figure out a way to get under. And they always do without really losing players.
Yeah. However they get it done this year, I'm just hoping people are watching because they're going to have to pull out every trick in the book to make it happen this time around.
Yeah.
Any young GM, hey, our guy with the Lions, keep an eye on this, man. You might learn a thing or two. All right, well, hey, so next up, let's talk about the quarterbacks. We got Russell Wilson trade talk. It started heating up, I don't know, a week or two ago, and well, probably more than that. But NFL.com, they're covering a lot of this. They're saying that basically at this point, 10 teams have inquired with Seattle, and just recently, Russell Wilson has come out and said that he has 4 teams on his list that he would prefer to go to, including Dallas, New Orleans, Las Vegas, and Chicago. I got to believe all 4 would get as creative as possible to land a guy like Russell Wilson. But out of that particular list, my gut's telling me Dallas is probably the only one that really has a chance here because they could kick back Dak in the deal. These other guys, I'm really not sure what they could do to really make Seattle that excited. But I don't know, man. What do you think? What have you been hearing?
So, so a couple things. One, like the first initial list I had heard was Miami, the Jets, the Saints, and the Raiders. And then it was clarified. Apparently, his agent, which sources never actually go on record unless there's real smoke there, real fire there. They went on record with Schefter where he said the agent said that Russ hasn't asked for a trade yet,
Okay.
but if they were to trade him, he would accept going to those 4 teams.
Yeah, so
There's
he's
there's
speaking in code. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. There's
He's like, give me
there's
more power and do things right here, or trade me to one of these guys.
right. A couple things. I think the 2 most likely candidates would be Dallas and the Raiders. The Raiders could kick back Carr and Mariota heck in the deal and put in a couple first round picks and Gruden is trying to find a way to get
Oh
that done.
yeah, he would eat that up. And Mayock, could he pull that off? Maybe. He seems like a pretty sharp guy. I'd be all for that. I guess I just look at, you know, if you're Seattle, would you want Derek Carr? I guess especially if you have an alternative where you could get Dak Prescott. I don't know. I think Dak is a lot better than Derek Carr, but Dak has also had the benefit of a phenomenal offensive line for a lot of years, although that
Mhm.
fell off a cliff this year. And so I don't know. I guess it's tough, but um, I could see the Raiders throwing a lot of picks at it with the quarterback to make it happen.
Yeah, but the problem with it is if they trade him before, I think the date was June 1st. Don't quote me on that, but that's like the cutoff date. So if they trade him before June 1st, it's like a $40 million cap hit, dead cap hit. If they trade him after June 1st, it's only a $19 million dead cap hit this year. It has something to do with how salaries accrue, and I
Okay.
I I don't fully understand it. It's just that they could save on the cap. So any picks they get back wouldn't be this year.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, that complicates things, you know. If you're making a move with a guy that big, yeah, you want to get something now, uh, unless you're going to say, hey, it's possibly a wash year, and then next year you're getting back on the game. Yeah, I think if you're a team like Seattle, that's a deal breaker because you've been
Yeah,
competitive all these years. You're not just going to say, ah, we're just going to take a year off. That'd be bad for business.
yeah. So I think if they do trade him, I think Russ has one more year in Seattle,
Hmm.
and then they're gonna probably trade him
Okay.
in the offseason.
All right,
Sorry.
well, next up, we got another quarterback, Deshaun Watson. So, we've been talking about him for at least a few weeks now. And uh, I guess the big news this week is that he's, now reportedly met with his new head coach. Apparently, that doesn't matter to him. He still wants out of Houston, which makes sense. But the team is still saying no, and it just seems like this one's starting to get pretty ugly. What do you think's going on here, man? Or what are you hearing about this one?
So I'm hearing the same thing. Like the reason why it came out, and I think Watson's camp kind of through sources and through the media, wanted to let everyone know that he's met with the team because last week or like earlier this week it was being reported that Watson's not returning phone calls from the coach and this and that, and it's like, listen, motherfucker, last Friday I met with the coach. I told him I am not going to play for Houston.
Yeah.
Period. I think what's happening is Casario, is that the new GM there?
Yeah,
Whatever.
Nick Casario. Yeah.
Whatever his name is. He's taking, he's getting these calls, and apparently it's like he's not picking up all the calls that he's getting
Yeah.
for Watson, and people are leaving voicemails for it. I mean,
I think, you're a GM, like whether you're wanting to make a deal or not, you got to listen to the offers because you never know when some guy's just going to be like, I'll give you everything I got. And you say, hey, it's just not meant to be with this guy. I might as well take the freaking gold mine and hopefully we can start over and be successful. I mean, they're in a position right now where honestly, they're not a competitive team. And so if you're going to do it, this is the time. I like it's different like your argument with Russell Wilson. You could say, yeah, you could really make him play one more year and that team is still competitive and they got a shot of making a run. I don't see it happening with Houston no matter what. So if you're going to do it now.
yeah, and the thing of it is what I think he's doing there is, he's just taking notes. Okay, the Jets offered this, Miami offered this, whoever else offered this, and he's writing down the best deals he's going to get. And you're going to come to like the morning of the first round of the draft, and he's going to look at all the offers he's got, and he's going to pick up the phone and he's going to say, all right, let's talk. Let's get this done. And he's going to call that team that offered the best offer, try to get a little bit more in there, and come to a deal.
Well, yeah, he's going to have to. He's going to have to say tack on an extra whatever pick. Otherwise, they're going to be like, "Oh, you're calling me now." Well, guess what? The deal's changed, and then it works that way. And so,
Yeah.
So the only way that he'll actually get the deal that maybe has been offered now is if he says, "Hey, look, it's draft day. I want to do it, but I need a little bit more." And they're going to be like, "No way, motherfucker!" And it's going to be that little game, and then he's going to be like, "Okay, I'll take the original deal because it's good enough."
Right. And I think once like the window is up until the Jets make their pick at number 2.
Okay. Yeah, it could literally happen in the draft.
Yeah. If once that second pick's in, Houston's fucked. They're not going to get any value back for them unless they're getting well, we'll go into that a little bit later.
Okay. Yeah, it would be an uglier situation. But all right. Okay, so next up I got just a handful of guys, just some news about people being released. The first one was Titans wide receiver Adam Humphries. I think fairly understandable. The guy really wasn't a factor in Tennessee. Most of that was an injury / concussion issue. And the move ends up clearing some space. Maybe this is part of their plan to go after J.J. Watt. We know they've got interest. But, it's tough. It's tough when a player can't stay healthy and perform. He was on a fairly good contract for a guy that really didn't put anything into the stat book. But, it's okay. He'll go somewhere else. Maybe the Lions. We might need some receivers. I'd go after him, give him a shot,
Yeah, so with Tennessee, I'm hearing Tennessee's one of the front runners for Watt. I'm also hearing though that Watt has an offer of 15 to 16 million on the table.
New England.
Which
no, I don't know. It's got to be a team with a lot of space.
Right. I still think that Watt's going to end up in Indy, like I said last week. Even though you're not hearing much about it, but it just seems it appears to me to be the perfect fit.
It'd be
for
pretty
him.
sweet. Yeah.
Tennessee, if they're going to get Watt, they still have to clear like another like 12 million
Yeah. Yeah. They got
cap
some more
space.
moves they got to make. Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
heard they're shopping their former first round tackle. What's his face? Isaiah Wilson, I want to say is his name. And
Mhm.
I don't know. They, like you said, they got to do a combination of things if they want to get serious about bringing Watt in. But it'd be
Yeah.
cool. It'd be cool. Him and Vrabel paired up again. All right. So next up, I got center Corey Linsley. Looks like he's out in Green Bay. That's, I guess, at least what's being reported is that he's expecting that he's gone. To me, it just seems like another one of these kind of moves where it's like shame on the team, unless they have a really good plan to backfill this guy because, he's been a solid protector for Aaron Rodgers. And it's like they just keep poking the bear. Like, oh, hey, we should be getting you weapons and doing things so that you can make a run. And yeah, you don't need that guy. You don't need these receivers. You don't need this. You don't need that. I just, you know, but hey, if he does leave, hopefully a team like Cincinnati gets him because we know Burrow needs the protection. And the guy's still legit, I think, even at this point in his career. I mean, offensive linemen, they can play a long time. And so, it just, I don't know. It just, what's going on in Green Bay, man? There's just always something funky going on there now.
Well, they have the guy. Um, they drafted a center last year.
Oh, yeah, like the son of an old offensive lineman. I'm trying to remember his name. Um,
Hanson?
was it?
Jake Hanson.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So maybe that's what their plan is start working him in. I mean, he was he was a 6th round pick. I thought he was higher for some reason. I'm trying to think who else they have that
I
could.
mean, it's a good bloodline, but yeah, you're banking on a guy really taking a big step when you're replacing a guy like Lindsey.
Yeah, I just glancing at their roster from last year. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
That's a really tough one
yeah.
because yeah.
And I mean, look at that playoff game, man. I mean, it did not end well for Green Bay. Rodgers was getting pressure on him, and it's like, okay, now all of a sudden you're gonna remove one of your better offensive linemen. Like, oh man, you better have a really good plan on how you're gonna fix this.
Mhm.
But maybe they don't. They've done a lot of questionable things these last couple of years here. And then next up, I got the Broncos releasing defensive tackle Jarrell Casey. Historically, this is a guy I've liked a lot. These linemen, whether it's offensive or defensive, they don't really get a ton of credit for what they do. Casey's been one of those guys where he just when healthy, which has been I think most of his career, he's been a difference maker on the defensive line. But I'm starting to wonder what's going on. Maybe he's got some issues because Tennessee just dropped him last year, and that's how he ended up in Denver. And now Denver's getting him. So either it's a money thing, or a health thing, or a performance thing, or a combination of all of them. But if it's not the money, he's got an opportunity to end up somewhere else. And, I'm sure somebody's going to give him a look because he's a pretty well respected name on that defensive line.
I got distracted. Who were we talking about? Wow.
Oh, Jarrell Casey. Let me bring you back to Gridiron Grinder,
Yeah.
James.
No, I was looking at the Corey Linsley thing, and because I'd missed that this week. But I mean, he did he was went on the IR in December, so
Yeah.
that
Well,
it
yeah.
might
So
have
I guess,
been
yeah, it
in,
wasn't a part of the. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I got distracted with that, and then Casey. Okay, wow, it's been that good week. I have no thoughts on that. I didn't even
That's cool.
hear
I
about
I
that.
think I think I hit it pretty good. Let's just go on to the next guy, which is Texans running back Duke Johnson was released, and we were talking, you know, could David Johnson be gone somehow? What's going on there? We know that they got to do some stuff, and
Hmm.
Duke Johnson, this is a tough one. I liked him a lot when he was in Cleveland. He did a lot catching the ball out of the backfield. I was hoping he'd get a full-time role in Houston, which it never happened. And now at this stage of his career, it's tough because it's one of these deals where, he's just going to be a role player. And hopefully, running backs as they get older, they have a hard time latching onto teams unless they're like dominant. And so, hopefully he lands on a team where he can be a role player and play, the right role for that squad because he's been a solid guy his whole career, man. One of these guys that just always overlooked. I don't know what the deal is, but when he plays well consistently.
Yeah, and if for those of you that for those that listened to what I had to say last week, I kind of thought that was a move that was going to happen
Yep.
down there. Right? I said I don't know about David Johnson, but I you don't need both of
No.
them. They're neither of them really are performing, so it makes sense that they release him. It's probably more of a cap casualty, also because I think he was like 5 million this year. I want to say. Let me pull pull it up real quick because I think it's a pretty big savings for him. Blah blah blah. Duke Johnson, yeah, 5 million.
Yeah, I remember you telling me it was significant.
Yeah, and David Johnson's almost 7 million. So
Hmm.
I mean that's pretty significant savings with their cap situation in Houston, where I think they were still over or just like right under after the Watt release. Where are they? Why are they not on my list?
Well, we're looking at NFC tonight.
Oh, I know. Yeah, so if this list is updated for the Duke Johnson, they now have 19 million of open cap space.
Okay.
So I mean they're sitting pretty.
They're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and that I think that gives them. I mean that gives them the ability to bring back Fuller or one of those guys, one of their
Yeah.
free agents.
Yeah, get Watson some weapons, try and make amends.
Yeah, try to make amends, try to convince him to stay.
Yeah, hey, what do you want? An offensive lineman, a wide receiver, a tight end? You just tell us. We'll find a
Mhm.
way to, make the space for it. Okay, so last up for the news of the week, at least from my end. If you have other stuff, you can, of course, add it in here. But I was looking at Mel Kiper's most recent mock draft, and he's got the Lions trading with the 49ers, and the 49ers taking quarterback Justin Fields, whereas the Lions take linebacker uh, Micah, however you say it, Parsons, the guy from Penn State. You know, I don't know what you're thinking, but I kind of like it. If we could get a stud guy on defense and add to our picks for the rebuild, I think that's the way to go, man. But I know you've been wanting him to take a quarterback. So what do you think here, man?
So I don't think anymore that this is the time for them to take a quarterback. I think I think if you look at Goff and look at what Goff can do, while at times he does struggle. Like I mean, he was basically in in with the Rams. There was from what I'm hearing, there was a huge problem between him and McVay, and that
Yeah.
that could have that could have affected his performance. I think give him the fresh start, give him the chance to be the starter, not have that newly drafted player or newly signed free agent
Putting
coming in
pressure on
and
him. Yeah.
putting pressure on him and see what he can do. Give
Yeah.
it a year. It's probably going to be at least two years before we're really competitive again. Just
Yep.
see what he can do. Get him a couple, maybe a wide receiver. I was thinking if one of those three wide receivers could fall to the Lions pick, that would be a target, I would say, for the
Yeah, I
Lions.
saw I saw Jamar Chase, I believe, was one that was
Yeah.
mocked to us before, and yeah, I tend to agree because we know Marvin Jones is going to be chasing a contender in free agency, and we're
Hmm.
obviously not going to tag him. I mean, it'd be crazy. It could happen, I guess, but I don't think it's going to happen. And then we got the deal going on with Kenny Galladay. Are we going to tag him? Or are we going to let him go? His deal's kind of mucked up because he was injured for a lot of last year. But, I think we liked what we saw on him. It's just a matter of, what do you do? And even if you hang on to him, you probably need to go after another wide receiver. And so, yeah, that's an alternative for the draft for sure.
Definitely don't reach for a corner back.
No, that was tough, man. Yeah. I mean, hey, I hope Okuda comes around and ends up being a difference maker this year because I've heard Trufant could be a guy that ends up being a cap casualty. And, I don't know, man. I mean, we drafted him high, so I would hope that he at least becomes a respectable starting level cornerback. Otherwise, man, it's just tough. It's a huge swing and miss if it doesn't happen.
I think it's a huge swing and miss. Anyways, there's like we were talking in the draft, and they should have traded that pick. They could have gotten Okuda 3, 4 picks, 5, 6 picks later.
Yep. Yeah, and Bob Quinn, man, didn't know how to work the deal. So shame on him, but that's also why he's gone. All right. So did you have anything else news-wise from this past week that you wanted to hit on?
It's just a little bit more of the Roethlisberger stuff with apparently.
Oh yeah.
Rooney and Roethlisberger met, and they both said how they would love to be back together, and blah 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 blah. This is what all I'm going to say about it is what Pittsburgh has to do. They say, Ben, it was great having you as our quarterback. Here's a car. Here's a statue. We're retiring your number.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. I don't see how we talked about it a lot last week. I don't see how this team stays even at the level they were at this year. I just don't see how it's possible. They're going to lose a lot of talent no matter what way you roll the dice here. I would let the guy go. I would try to trade him if you could. Do something. Just, hey, you really want to play? Let me send you to New England for a year or whatever. But it's just not going to be here because we don't have the cap space, man.
Well, the thing with it is I don't think anybody else wants him. If you look at their division, Pittsburgh is currently right now, without any other moves, they're the 3rd best team in the division with the 4th best quarterback in the division. There's no way you can say that Ben is better than Jackson. You can't say that Ben is better than how Baker played last year. You can't.
I don't know, man.
And you can't say that he's better than Burrow, a healthy Burrow.
I think Burrow, if he takes a step up, yeah, he could be better than Ben at this stage of Ben's career. But
no, I mean currently at this stage of their careers. Last year, Ben Roethlisberger looked like a 42-year-old quarterback.
He had a shitty playoff game, but he had a pretty solid season other than the playoff game.
He had after week 11, the only, was that 5 games after that? They played one good half. You have 10 total halves. They played one good fucking half of football.
I don't put all that on him, man. I don't put all that on him.
I put a lot of that the offensive struggles at the end of the year on him and on him alone. He couldn't throw the ball down the field after week 11. He was
okay.
He was struggling after week 11. He ran out of gas. It's what I've been saying about Bruce.
Dude,
Bruce can't complete his
we talked about this. We talked about this weeks ago that they couldn't figure out how to get the running game going, and he had to fucking throw every game all game long, and eventually it caught up to him. And I think that I don't put it all on him. Yeah, it sucks. Did his performance fall off? Sure, but the dude still had a pretty good year. He just had to carry the entire offense for almost the whole season, man.
So what they have to do then is they have to find a quarterback to start the first 6 games and have the team in it, so Ben can finish the season strong.
He can make a run at the end. I got you.
That's the only way he's going to make a run at the end. He can't complete a season at a high level.
Okay. Well, yeah, get him out of there. I agree with you though. I mean, it's not meant to be in Pittsburgh. If they're going to force, it's a square peg in a round hole now because they got too many other spots where they got to hang on to guys if they want to stay at a solid level. And yeah. All right. What else you got news wise?
That was it. It was just the Roethlisberger stuff.
Oh
That
man,
it's like,
you hurt my feelings when you dog Big Ben like that, James. You know I like him, man.
nope. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, yeah, I would be on the same page as you.
All right.
It's just, it's
I
just
know.
done.
Yep, yep. Father time has caught up with him. And I mean, honestly, his whole career at the end of the year, he was always banged up because he took so many hits. This was the first year he wasn't taking the hits, but he just threw the ball way too many times, and so it got him. But I hear you. It's all good. Let's move on to the main part of the show for tonight, which is our whatever we're calling it, franchise tag predictions. Basically, we're going to be looking at each of the teams in the NFC, and we're going to be talking about, you know, who out of their roster that's set to become a free agent is the most likely candidate or candidates to get the franchise tag because, there could be a couple guys that they're weighing their options on. And just like last week, it's still super early. And so, guys can still be signed. There's a lot of things that can happen. But this is just kind of like a starting point. We're just kind of getting the wheels turning here. And as things unfold, we'll be making comments on them as we go. Um, last week, James, you were able to come up with the most updated list of the franchise tag values by position. If you want to grab that again and run us through it, that's cool. Otherwise, we can just jump in and start talking about the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I'll get it. Just give me a minute. Let's start talking about the Cardinals, and then I'll pop it
You'll
up.
chime in. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, looking at Arizona, these guys are sitting at 16th in terms of available cap space with 11.8 million. And so, to me, when I look at their roster, it comes down to them either tagging cornerback Patrick Peterson or linebacker Hassan Reddick. Peterson, it's tough, man. He's had some great games, but I think he's really entering that decline phase of his career. And so, if you're tagging him, you're probably doing it with the intentions of it being a 1 year rental, in which case, do you really want to pay that much for a cornerback? Some teams do, some teams don't. But I had it at 16.5 million for a cornerback, which was the 2020 number. I know that's come down a little bit. And then Hassan Reddick, on the other hand, he's not really lived up to his draft status. He's a former first rounder. But I think last year he finally showed some signs of improvement. I'm not sure that it's enough for them to tag him because it's been kind of like a checkered run there in Arizona. But lineups has him rated as an 85, and he's the highest rated free agent that they have right now. So maybe the next guy I found on the list was running back Kenyon Drake, rated at 83. I just wouldn't go crazy for a running back in like today's day and age in the league. And so when I look at this team, I think more than likely they're not going to use the franchise tag this year. But if it's going to happen, maybe it's a 1 year rental on Peterson, or maybe they feel comfortable with Hassan Reddick where he's gotten better and they got to use it just temporarily to sign him to a longer term deal. I'd just be hesitant with that because it's kind of setting up the stage to overpaying a guy that they've just not historically been happy with.
So I had for with the possibilities for them. I didn't think Drake was a possibility for the franchise tag. I just something tells me that what the value is, and once I find it, I'll have the number.
Yeah, I can tell you the 2020 for running backs was 12.5 million, and the 2021 that you found was at least a couple million lower. That's still a lot for a running back, and I forget. Oh man, what's their other running back? I really like that other guy they got.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank right now. Uh, but yeah, I couldn't I wouldn't be able to go that big on Kenyon Drake. The only reason I could see them maybe considering it is because they did just trade for him, not this past year, but the year before. And so maybe they're thinking, hey, we're not ready to let this guy go yet because we had to make a trade to get him. But I don't know. Running backs, man, in today's day and age, it's hard to tag a running back.
Yeah, it's very hard to tag a running back, and I think yeah, this is the article I had it in. So, um, as far as tagging Peterson, I think that's
It can happen, but a guy at this stage of his career typically doesn't get the tag.
yeah. So, you look at I had Reddick as my strongest candidate for the tag for Arizona. That last year he had the 1 year prove it deal. He had 12 and a half sacks last year. He
Yeah,
had a
and
solid season.
yeah, he definitely improved. I'm just wondering, are they going to look at the whole career and say, we've not seen enough to do this? Or are they going to say, okay, you had your one good year here. We can tag you and see if we can build off of it. I'm just worried that that sets the stage for a bigger deal that maybe he's not like shown enough to get that bigger deal.
Yeah, so I think they tag him and as a way to work out a long-term deal, not necessarily a bigger deal, which I have the values. At quarterback, it's 24.8 million. Offensive line is 13.6. Running back is 8.5.
Yeah, running back came down a lot.
Yeah, wide receivers 15.8, tight ends 9.5, cornerbacks 14.9, defensive ends 15.9, defensive tackles 13.7, linebackers 14.6, and kicker is 4.4, punter or kicker.
Yeah, so it's pretty big. You said 14.6 for linebacker?
Yeah,
Yeah, so they'd
but
be, that's pretty hefty for them going after him. And I think it gets tricky because he's going to say, I can get 14.6. You want a long-term deal where you're probably giving me half of that a year, 7, 8 a year is my guess is what they would probably see as fair value for him. And he's just going to say, fuck it, I'll just play on the tag and then I'll go sign somewhere else.
well, what you do is there's a way to manipulate that. So you get it so you put some of it into like a signing bonus. So you're paying him 8-9 a year, and then like because he's only going to get the 14.5 for this year, and then you give him the security, or you give him 2 years guaranteed at 9 with like a $3 million signing bonus. There's ways to probably more than 3 million, $4 million signing bonus, a little bit less than the 14.6 that he's going to get. You give him 2 guaranteed years and 2 years in the back end,
So you're saying
and
there's hope. They can
yeah,
pull
there's
it
hope.
off.
But I think also one of their priorities has to be is they have to figure out what to do with Chandler Jones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've heard that he's a potential cut candidate, which blows my mind, man. I mean,
Yeah,
he was one of my picks for MVP or defensive player of the year rather before he got hurt. And so, I think they're foolish if they get rid of him, but you never know. Crazier things have happened.
well, because his cap hit is I think he makes 15 and a half in 2021. After 2020, I think 2022 he's unrestricted free agent.
Okay.
So they're gonna have to either extend him, figure out what to do. But I mean, easily he probably on the open market could get 18, 19, 20 million a year.
Yeah, he would immediately be, I gotta believe, the top free agent on the market.
Hmm. So they have to figure out what they're doing with him as well. But I think keeping Reddick there would, because that defense. I mean, it had glimpses where it was good, and then when Jones went down, it kind of went to shit.
Yeah.
So they kind of have to have to figure out and keep the. I think they need to keep those two together and then build around them.
Okay. Well, I like the logic. All right, so moving on here, next team on the list is the Atlanta Falcons. These guys are in pretty rough shape, sitting at 27th in terms of available cap space. They are over by 20.2 million. And so when I looked at it, I'm not sure that they're going to be using the tag. If they did, their center, Alex Mack, is pretty clearly their best free agent available. He's got an 85 rating. It's a similar kind of thing, though, as Peterson, where he's kind of at a stage in his career where you don't typically see these guys get the tag. And so more than likely, the next guy on the list is safety Keanu Neal. I could see them doing something with him. He's pretty solid with an 83 rating. And he gets a lot of buzz on that defense, but I just think with them, given their salary cap situation, the tag's really not going to come into play this year for them.
So they're gonna have to be creative. They're gonna have to be really creative. They have some key needs as well. Like the problem with Atlanta is two of the players take up 35% of the cap.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan at almost 41 million and Julio Jones at 23 million. I think that they're gonna have to be creative to figure it out. They need a running back because Gurley's a free agent now. And he kind of showed that he could play a little bit last year, so he's probably going to get more money. And I'm trying to think. I don't remember who was their other running back besides.
Oh, I'm trying to think. I know they got Ito Smith, but there was another guy that was a bigger factor, I want to say. Um, I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I have to look it up, but I mean they still they have to do something at running back
Yeah.
as well. So ultimately, though, uh, so on their depth chart, they had last year they had Gurley, Smith, Brian Hill, and Kadri
Oh
Olaf.
yeah, Allison. Yeah.
No. Anyways, I think that I'll get back to my notes. So Keanu Neal, he was his fifth year option. He's a good young safety that they can kind of build. They can be a key part of that defense. I think letting him go would be a mistake.
Yeah.
I think they might franchise tag him as an avenue to get more time to get a longer term deal.
Yeah. Yeah, they just got to work the shit out of the cap because
Yeah,
they're upside down.
exactly.
But yeah,
And
I think I
you
think
don't have to
he's
be under the cap till what is it? September 3rd.
yeah, they got time to make it happen. It's just, when you're that far over, you got your
Hmm.
work cut out for you.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we got the Carolina Panthers. When I put all this together, they were sitting at 11th in cap space with 19.9 million available. And their offensive guard, Taylor Moton, was their highest rated free agent, sitting at an 87 overall, which 87 overall for an offensive lineman is a pretty solid rating. And so, the next highest guy was Mike Davis, the running back, with an 84 rating, which, I mean, unless something happens where McCaffrey is part of a trade for Watson or something like that, it's just highly, highly unlikely that they would franchise tag Mike Davis, which means Moton is the most likely guy. After Mike Davis, if we go down, the next guy on the list is wide receiver Curtis Samuel. He's been pretty good as kind of like their gadget guy. I don't think he's franchise tag worthy, especially with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson there. But you know, I think plus it's a monster number for a guy that's not a true number one at any particular position with Curtis Samuel, anyhow. So for me, I think it's pretty clear their priority is Taylor Moton, and if they don't tag him, I don't think they're using the tag this year.
Okay, so I have them now at 8th in cap available space with 37.4 million
Okay, so
available.
they've made some moves then. Yeah.
Yeah, they've made a lot of moves. So with Carolina,
That's how
one of
quick the numbers change in a week, man.
yeah, one of the things I'm hearing about Carolina is that their offer for Watson is 2 first round picks, Robbie Anderson, and McCaffrey.
And you might as well give him Teddy Bridgewater too.
Yeah, exactly. So they're going to need weapons.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, they have to keep Moton.
Yeah.
So it's a hard one to say who they're going to keep because it's Samuel. They also Okung's a free agent. Both their starting guards from last year are free agents. It's difficult. It's difficult for that because they're going to need weapons. So if they trade McCaffrey, I think they definitely franchise tag Davis.
Yeah. Ooh, man. It's just such a big move to franchise tag a running back, man.
I know.
And this guy bounced around on teams, like it just makes you think, is it the system? They can just pluck another guy and get him in there? Oh, man, I would be nervous tagging Mike Davis, man.
Oh, I would be nervous too, but I think that let me rephrase because there's a tag that we keep saying franchise tag.
Yeah, it could be a different tag, but yeah, for the
It could they
purposes of,
could
of this assignment, we were just looking at the franchise tag, which is the
yeah,
big option. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know what the value is on the transition tag. Oh, it would help if I typed on a keyboard that's connected to my computer.
All right, while you're looking that up, I'm gonna jump ahead here to
But but
Chicago.
if they don't trade um, McCaffrey, then they tag Moton.
Yeah. Okay. Should I wait? Should I go?
Go for it. Go for it.
All right. So next up, we got the Chicago Bears, and at the time of my notes, they were 22nd in cap space, over by 2.5 million. Allen Robinson, by far and away their highest rated free agent. Lineups has him at 93, which is freaking rock solid. And honestly, it just really blows my mind that we don't hear more about them trying to sign this guy to a long-term deal. He's a legit wide receiver one in this league. And the last I've been hearing about them is they want to tag and trade him for a team that's supposedly in win now mode. It seems like the wrong strategy to me. But I get it. They're upside down with cap space, and hanging on to him is going to cost them a pretty penny. I just think they're going to be fooling themselves if they think they're going to get better quarterback play with lesser weapons. And so after him on my list, the next highest guy is their kicker, Cairo Santos. And with their kicking woes, it wouldn't be crazy to tag him if they can't get him to a long-term deal. But it's unusual to tag a kicker. And so, really, I ultimately see them doing their tag and trade with Robinson or not using it at all due to their cap situation. And you are
Yeah.
frozen in time, aren't you?
No, I was listening to you. Chicago's an interesting issue. I agree with you on Allen Robinson, but they're not going to tag Allen Robinson. It's hard to let him go. I don't see them as having anybody that's taggable this year.
Yeah, that's why after Robinson, I had the kicker, which is a highly unlikely target. And so it's Allen Robinson. And I think if they do it, they're doing it with the intentions of trading him. They're not doing it with the intentions of keeping him.
Yeah, and well, I thought I had heard that they were going to allow him to go into free agency.
Okay. Yeah, that might be news since the last I heard.
Like, I just something I thought that's what I heard, but I mean I could be wrong. Well, but I don't. I'm not certain
Okay.
on that. But I don't think they tag him. So I keep finding different new values for the franchise tag and transition tags this year.
Maybe it's not set in stone yet, you know?
Yeah. So okay. So apparently it's 24 million, about 24 million for QB for franchise, 21 million for transition.
Okay.
Defensive end is almost 18 for a franchise, 14.8 for transition. Wide receivers 16.4 and 14.2. Cornerbacks 15.2 and 13.2. Linebacker 15.6. Transitions 13.4. O line 14.5, 13.1. Defensive tackle 14.1, 11.4. Safety 11.1, 9.5. Running back is 11 millions for the franchise tag.
Yeah, that's higher. Yeah.
8.9 for the transition tag.
That makes sense because, otherwise it was a drop of 4 million from last year, which is like, how could it
Yeah.
fall that much? But yeah, that makes more sense now.
Tight end 10.1 versus 9.2. So I mean 8.9, $9 million for to do a transition tag on a running back is still high. So you might be right about Mike Davis. They might let him see what he has in free agency and just tag Moton. But the Bears are definitely not using the franchise tag.
All right. Next up's the Dallas Cowboys. And so I had them 12th in cap space with 19.4 million available. I think the obvious choice here is Dak Prescott. But, there always seems to be some kind of uncertainty with him and the Cowboys. And so the next man up is Chidobe Awuzie, their cornerback. He's got an 80 rating. That's pretty steep. The cost to franchise tag a cornerback with only an 80 rating. And so I think it's either Dak or bust. And honestly, I would not be surprised if they pulled off a tag and trade with Dak just because of all the stuff that's always been going on with him. And you made it the last time we talked sound more encouraging that they really do want to keep him. And so, maybe all that's water under the bridge and it's going to get done and it's all going to be good. But man, I don't know. This whole thing from my perspective has always looked funky with him and the Cowboys, man.
Yeah, something's definitely up. Like you hear Jerry Jones talk about how Dak's the QB of the future, blah 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 blah, and then they don't get a deal done over one fucking year.
Yeah.
It's something's definitely smells fishy there. I think that if they use the franchise tag, it would be on Dak. I think that if they use a franchise tag on Dak, it's to make him the ex-Dallas Cowboys quarterback, whether it's after the season
Yeah.
or it's
Tag a trade.
tag him, work out a trade with Seattle, and let him
Yeah.
let him work out a deal with Seattle, a long-term deal with Seattle before the trade. That's the only way they use the franchise tag on Dak. I don't think if they don't work out a long-term deal, they will use the tag on him, but it's only to trade him.
Yeah. I'm in agreement. So next up, that brings us to the Detroit Lions. Maybe we should take a piss break first because I'm sure there's a lot to be said here. But so I had the Lions at 23rd in cap space, which is over by frickin' 8.2 million. which, let's just face it, it's another reason why the last regime is gone. Our cap is upside down, and we are not even close to being a competitive team. It's just garbage, in my opinion, total garbage. And so, could we tag a guy? I don't know, maybe. If we're going to tag a guy, it looks like it would probably be Kenny Galladay. But, like we talked about, his value's hurt because of the lack of playing time last year. And lineups has his rating at an 83, which is really not that strong for a tag guy. It's just tough, man. If we got to pay big money for him, are we better off trying to do a tag and trade like Chicago was talking about with Allen Robinson? Could you even tag and trade a guy like Kenny Galladay because of the injury history? I just, it's tough because the team is in full-blown rebuild mode, and we know we've got to shed some bad deals. It's hard to see them sign a big contract with a guy. And so I don't know what's going to happen here. After that, Marvin Jones is the next man up in terms of the highest rated guy. We know he's not coming back. And then next up, I got defensive end Romeo Okwara. I like him. I hope they land him to a long-term deal because he's been a solid story, but I don't think he's franchise tag worthy. And so I think all of it basically boils down to Kenny Galladay and whether they can come up with something reasonable long-term, or maybe they tag and trade. Maybe I'm crazy to think that. I like Galladay. I don't know. I don't want to see them sign big deals this year because we know that this next year is messed up. And I'd like to see them just kind of clean the slate so that the following year they can really start to grow again.
Why the fuck did the Lions let Patricia and Quinn have anything to do with last year?
Yeah, they just messed up our team bad, man.
Yeah. So this fucking team needs a lot of shit. The question is it a complete full blow it up, burn it down to the ground, and rebuild from the fucking foundation?
It should be.
It should be. But then they traded for Goff, which tells me it's not as much that as you think. For Goff to be successful, whether or not it's to trade him after this year or to end up being
he's going to need some weapons. Yeah.
He needs weapons. The Lions fucking need wide receivers. I think.
So now, hey, hear me out here. I heard Woods and Cup are likely to be available this offseason. So you got Goff. Maybe you go and get a couple of his buddies at wide receiver.
Cup was his safety blanket.
Yeah.
My prediction for the Lions is they're going to work out a long-term deal with Galladay and tag Marvin Jones.
Wow. I mean, it could happen. I'm just with him publicly saying he wants to chase a contender. It'd be risky to tag that guy, man, because right off the bat he's going to be unhappy.
But hear me out. Tag Marvin Jones and trade Jones.
Oh, he's the tag and trade, not Galladay.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, so you'd have to work out a reasonable deal, though, because nobody's going to take him on the tag.
A reasonable deal. Call up your buddy in Los Angeles and say, hey, you remember when I took on that fucking Goff contract?
Yeah.
This is what you're going to do for me now.
Yeah, here you go. You got, and by the way, he's Stafford's go-to guy, so have fun.
Yep, exactly.
Huh. Hey, it could happen. It could happen.
But yeah, I think they tag Marvin Jones and work out a long-term deal with Galladay.
Okay.
I mean they have, what is it, like a week and a half to work out that long-term deal with Galladay. If they don't, either way, they don't let Galladay go.
I'd keep him, but man, I worry about Galladay because I hear the stats. He's got like the least separation for a guy in his position, and so it means he's either just like a true possession receiver, or I don't know. It makes me nervous. It makes me nervous. All right, so next up we got the Packers, 26 in cap space. They're over by 20 million. They've got a few big name free agents. I mean, we talked about Corey Linsley earlier. I'm just not sure that they're going to get enough bang for their buck with any of the guys on the list. And the top guy is running back Aaron Jones. He's got a 91 rating on lineups. But like we talk about a lot, teams are moving away from signing running backs to big contracts. And they did just draft A.J. Dillon last year, who started to come on a little bit in the playoffs. And so, you know, I just don't see them franchise tagging Aaron Jones. I personally like Aaron Jones a lot, and I would like to hang on to that guy. But we're living in a weird, anti-running back world in the NFL. The
Hmm.
next guy on the list would have been Corey Linsley, but it sounds like they're letting him walk. He's got an 89 rating, man. That's solid for an offensive lineman. Really freaking solid. And then after that, we got tight end Robert Tonyan, who stepped up big time as a playmaker this year. I think they would love to keep him. Lineups only has him at a 77, which I kind of thought was low, but maybe he is a little bit one-dimensional as a tight end, and so you know, um, would they tag him? Maybe. I think given the cap constraints, I don't see it happening, but those are just the couple of names. I think if something were to happen.
So I have a couple potential cap casualties,
Okay.
but it doesn't do anything for the franchise tag.
All right. Well, hit me up anyhow, man. What are you seeing?
Like, so after June 1st, they cut Preston Smith, saves them
Ooh,
12,
would they
12,
though?
$12 million. dollars.
I don't think they're going to get rid of him, but maybe. You never know. Crazier things have happened.
They cut Kirksey.
Yeah, I think he's gone. Yeah,
That saves them $6 million. Dollars.
yeah.
And they cut Lowry, which is a little bit over $3 million. Dollars.
Okay.
I mean, that doesn't even get them below the fucking cap.
Yeah. So
How
they're not
how the
tagging
fuck are they
anybody.
going to franchise tag anybody?
They're not
Plus,
tagging anybody.
they have to figure out an extension for Adams. Like, you really want to piss Rodgers off, which apparently Green Bay does by drafting
Yeah,
his up and not giving him any weapons. Why not just fucking cut Devontae Adams and say fuck it? Let's see what you can do now, Rodgers.
yeah.
It's like it's like the was it the wasn't there a commercial like State Farm or something? Hey Rodgers, you suck. That's what Green Bay tells Rodgers every fucking day.
Yeah, yeah. You're lousy. You're a lousy Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way they can tag anybody if they. There's just no way.
I don't see it happening. No way. Okay. Next up, we got the Los Angeles Rams. They're sitting at the bottom of the barrel, 30th in cap space, over by 34 million. Their cornerback Darius Williams is their top-rated free agent with an 85 overall. After that, they got safety John Johnson, 84 overall. I look at this one where their salary cap is so jacked up, I don't think anything could happen. If there were something to happen, I think they would actually prioritize the safety over the cornerback just because they have Jalen Ramsey as their cornerback one. That'd be a ton of money to be putting into your cornerbacks. And so this is kind of like a way, it's still in the secondary. You're just kind of spreading it out differently. But that's just me talking. I don't see it happening. I don't see it being possible.
No, there's no there's nothing. Like, I mean, you have little bits and pieces you can save here, really, but I mean, they're going to struggle to get under the cap number as it is, and then adding the franchise tag and overpaying, like paying Leonard Floyd, what is it, $14 million for, or the safety $13 million. Like how the fuck are they gonna
Doesn't make
Do
sense.
that.
It's not going to work.
Yeah, and nothing's going to work. Like they're not going to tag anybody. They're. I mean, they have to figure out how to get under the cap number first.
Yep.
If for some reason by March 9th they can figure out how to get under the cap number, then there's a chance they might tag somebody, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, they're in that highly unlikely category. All right, next up, we got the Minnesota Vikings. I had them at 24th in cap space, over by 9.4 million. The top guy on the list that I showed was safety Anthony Harris. Only an 81 rating on lineups, but from everything I know about the situation, they really like this guy and they want to hang on to him. At 30 years old, though, he's also not one of those typical franchise tag candidates. 30 years old in safety terms is kind of like it's getting to that decline phase almost. It just, plus on top of that, the team's upside down with cap space. So when I looked at the rest of their roster, the next available guys fall into that 70s range for their ratings, which is just definitely not good value to use the franchise tag. And so I don't see these guys using it this year. I don't think the Vikings tag anybody.
So I was kind of thinking they would consider tagging Eric Wilson, but
Okay.
I mean they have some work to do. I think
Yeah, they have some options. I mean, like in
that
terms of cutting people, everybody's been talking about Kyle Rudolph being out. I know that there's pieces that they can trim. It's just a matter of which ones do they want to do. They got some pruning to do though.
so so if you tag Eric Wilson, they're probably going to have to cut Rudolph and Barr,
Hmm.
and that would get them close to being and after June 1st tag Rudolph and or cut Rudolph and Barr, not before, because after June 1st it saves them 8 million and for Rudolph as opposed to 5 million now, and for Barr saves them almost 13 million as opposed to 7.7 million now.
Okay.
But I don't I don't really see them tagging anybody
Yeah, it's
ultimately.
unlikely.
Yeah.
Well, next up on the list, I mean, we could probably just skip these guys altogether, but it's the New Orleans Saints sitting at 32nd in cap space, over by 69.5 million. It just blows my mind. I know from what I've heard, they want to hang on to tight end Jared Cook. He's got an 86 rating, but I mean, it's just insane. These guys are 22 million more in the hole than the 31st team on the list. And so I don't know. I just, like I said, we probably could have skipped over them, but, I had a couple notes, so I thought I might as well say them.
So when it comes to the Saints,
If you were like a real dick team, you could like tease them with like a tag and trade and then just back out on the trade. So they're stuck with a guy that they tagged. And then their cap is just like they're totally effed at that point. But you'd be burning some credibility if you pulled something like that. Or or
I
other
was just
or other GMs might respect you and be like, "Holy shit, you got balls to try and fool these guys," like
yeah, I just before I said this, I kind of wanted to glance at where I could save with them, like just on cuts.
dude, the crazy thing that I've been hearing lately, and I'm sure that this is just pure speculation, is people talking about them trading frickin' Michael Thomas, man. Like, no
Yeah.
way. You just lit him up with a monster frickin' deal. There's no way you're trading that guy. But if you don't have a quarterback, maybe you do. I don't know.
So I mean, I think, and if I recall correctly, and this is going to be hard to do. So bear with me on it.
Okay.
New Orleans is one of the teams that Wilson said he would go to.
Yeah, but I mean, come on.
Let me finish. There's no way in hell they're going to get him. Yeah, there's cuts here and there, and as I'm looking at it and remembering, it's like half the players if they cut them will cost them more. Like even if they trade Michael Thomas, that's going to add to the deficit. It's not going to reduce it. If they trade, so like they got a lot of shit they got to do for the cap. If Breeze retires, which he probably is going to be,
Yeah.
and they can't figure out some ridiculous trade for Russ, I could see them tagging Winston.
You're just adding to your problem though with the cap, man.
I know you tag him with the intention of giving you the time to work out that deal.
It's risky.
It's risky, but
They need a quarterback.
they need a quarterback bad, and Taysom Hill is not a fucking quarterback. I don't care what you tell me.
Yeah.
He's not a fucking quarterback.
They're paying him a lot. And with their cap situation, I feel like they're going to have to roll with Taysom Hill. But yeah, I think they want to keep Winston.
Shit, he makes 9% of their fucking cap.
Yeah, I just don't know how they're gonna. They're so messed up, man. They're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving on here. Next up, we got the New York Giants, 19th in cap space, $900,000 in space. Without a doubt, they should be thinking about using the tag, if need be, in my opinion, on defensive end Leonard Williams. He's got a solid rating on lineups of 85, but he's a difference maker on that defensive line. The problem, of course, is the salary cap space. You know, I think with them being a little bit under the cap, they could make some moves, trim some guys here, re-sign some deals here. If they had to use the tag, they could use the tag. I think they should hang on to Leonard Williams. I don't know if they're gonna. I've really not heard a whole heck of a lot about it, and I just don't think that they're sold on him. I don't know. I like him. I like him a lot, and I'd hang on to him if I were them.
Okay, to start, I think that they should try to work out a long-term deal with Leonard Williams as opposed to tagging him.
Yeah, that's the preferred route. But if you can't do it, then the tag's there for a purpose of hanging on to him.
Yes.
Or you gotta tag him to sign him to a long-term deal because you need to buy some time. But yeah, I would commit to Leonard Williams long term. I like him. I think he's that good. But you know, there's something going on where they're not totally sold on him apparently.
I'm trying to get to my notes. My computer's been being weird
I know,
lately.
man. We just, we got to get more than 6 views a week, James, so we can start making that money, and then Gridiron Grinder can buy you a sweet laptop. We'll get you a freaking MacBook Pro or something awesome.
So I have the Giants as having 5 million of space.
Okay, so they cleared some stuff up since, or my over the cap number is different than the Spotrac number, which we knew they were about 5 million apart.
Yeah, and there's an easy way to save 8 million more. Where I mean, Golden Tate hasn't done shit since he's been there.
Time to go.
That's six. That's 6 million. David Mayo, that's 2.5 million. And I mean, you want to get crazy? It'd be tough, but nah, I'm not even gonna go there.
Okay, don't go there.
I I I was gonna say cutting Zeitler, but I'm not gonna go there.
Yeah.
As far I think that they're gonna work out a deal and not have to tag Williams. Um, but if they can't work out a deal before the deadline. Right before the deadline, they're going to tag him.
Yeah, he's their most likely candidate. He's really the only candidate in my opinion. But
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of the way that I approach this. Is basically I'm throwing out guys that I think could be tagged, not necessarily that they will be tagged, but if a team is going to use the tag, these are kind of my guys that they'd be looking at.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so next up we got the Philadelphia Eagles. They are 31st in cap space. Of course, actually, this number I'm sure is all different because this definitely I put together before the Wentz trade, and they were 47.3 million over the cap. No matter what way you roll the dice, they're in hot water. And so, basically their top couple of guys here, you had offensive tackle Jason Peters, 79 rating. Cornerback Nickel Roby-Coleman, 78 rating. My opinion, neither of those guys are high enough ratings wise to justify using the tag. Plus, they're pretty much effed with cap space. So I highly doubt that they could even think about using the cap or the tag this year.
So ironically, I'm looking at the Eagles, and I I think all those moves only saved them like 7 million.
Well, yeah, I mean the Wentz thing had, there was timing of like when it happened in the league year and how it affected the cap, but it was like there was no good way of going, man. There was no good way for them to do that.
So currently they have over 40 million of dead cap hits
Yeah, that's nuts.
this year.
In a year where the cap is getting tighter.
Almost 34 million of that is Carson Wentz.
Yep.
Almost 6 million of that is Deshaun Jackson. And then there's a bunch of other people that's like a couple 100,000, a couple thousand, whatever. That's just fucking ridiculous to have that much of dead cap. So I have them at about 40 million over.
Okay. So it's not going to happen.
Yeah, they're not going to tag anyone. Peters gone, Mills gone, Riley gone, Roby-Coleman gone. All these guys gone. It's like they've already cut like everyone they could, besides Ertz, to
Yeah.
save money.
Yeah. Yeah, this team they're in trouble, man. Even without Wentz, it's like they want to turn the page and go to Jalen Hurts, but they're really putting him in a bad spot because the team is going in the wrong direction talent wise. They've gotten crazy and they've been smart with working deals and playing with the cap and whatever in the past. Something about this year seems different for this team, and it looks like it's going the wrong way.
It's going the wrong way fast.
All right, so next up we got the San Francisco 49ers. I had them at 15th in cap space with 13.4 million. Their offensive tackle Trent Williams is their highest priority with a rating of 97. I knew he was good, James. I knew he was really good. I had no idea that lineups had him that high. 97 is a freaking crazy high rating. So, thankfully for them, they're actually in a position where they can use the tag. Kyle Shanahan, his offense needs solid offensive linemen. And so, they're going to want to lock this guy down no matter what they got to do to make it happen. The next guy I had on the list was their fullback, Kyle Juszczyk. I like him, 89 rating, but, there's no way they're going to tag a fullback. I mean, if I was a GM, I'd do it because I used to play fullback, but, that's just because I'm crazy. So I think it's simple for these guys, man. It's Trent Williams. You're really going down beyond that. The next guy I had on the list was cornerback Richard Sherman, and it seems like it's basically set in stone. He's not coming back. So, Trent Williams or bust here, man.
With San Francisco, they got Trent Williams for basically nothing from Washington. I think they sent a bag of golf balls to Washington and said, "Have a good day. We have our offensive tackle of the future. Pay the man what he deserves.
Hang on to him, man.
Need
Hang on to
to,
him.
if you need to, fucking tag his ass to work out that deal.
Yeah.
But just walk up to him, give him a sack of money, and say, "Here you go." Walk up to him, give him a blank check, and said, "Fill in your value."
Yeah, I mean,
Keep
he's
him on this team.
by
Period.
by far and away, he is the highest rated free agent that we've talked about. And yeah, if he doesn't get tagged or signed to a long-term deal, I mean, it'd be nuts. I mean, you're talking a guy like him going to free agency would be insane. It's like unheard of.
He walks in and says, the only way I will stay here is if you shoot Jimmy Garoppolo in the head. You fucking pull out a gun and shoot Jimmy Garoppolo in the head.
Yeah,
You
we
do
probably got
what
to
it
put a
takes.
disclaimer. James is joking, people. It's okay. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm just trying to drive home the point. You fucking do what you need to
you
keep
hang
this
on to
guy
this
on that
guy.
team.
Yeah, you
You
hang
keep
on
this
to him.
guy on the team. You have pieces of the team that can go right back to the fucking Super Bowl and
Yep.
possibly win it if you have a better quarterback.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It can happen, man. They're right there. They're on the cusp. All right, next up we got the Seattle Seahawks. 18th in cap space, 4.4 million available. You know, I mean, here's the thing. Their top rated guy, and I can see where they'd be tempted. It's just not going to happen. Is running back Chris Carson with an 87 overall. It's weird because he's been in and out of the Pete Carroll doghouse, and we know running backs are tough to trade unless they're just freaking game changers. He's good, but he's not on that level to be considered for the tag. Next up, we got linebacker KJ Wright. He's got an 86 rating. Pete Carroll loves hanging on to those guys on the defense. If they did anything with him, though, it's probably a 1-year rental. They got too many holes to fill, and at the stage of his career, it's just not a typical tag kind of situation. I just think for them, my opinion is that when I look at their roster and I see all the guys they got hanging out there that are upcoming free agents, you don't want to use the tag because you want to have as much money as you can to spread around and plug as many holes as you can. If you put it all into one guy, you got leaks all over the place. And so, it might be tempting, but I think they should avoid doing it just so they can plug more holes.
So I think Seattle has to sit down and say, I think the only option for a tag for Seattle would be Shaquille Griffin.
Okay.
I think they have to sit down and look at what they project the market for Griffin to be.
Yeah.
If they think it's going to be a huge, huge market for him and they can't get a deal done with him, I think they tag him and trade him.
Oh, that's interesting. I never even thought about that. Huh.
But if they don't think the market's going to be there for him, they take the gamble, let him hit free agency, and then work out a deal for less. Because you got to remember, they're going to have to extend Jamal Adams at some point, and they just gave, what was it, 2 first-round picks for him.
Yeah, you
They're
got
going
to
to
hang on to
extend his
him.
ass. So, I mean, you have to either work out a long-term deal at a reasonable price with Griffin, let him walk, potentially walk, but still have that long-term deal on the table for him, but less than what he thinks he's valued at,
Yeah.
or tag him and trade him. And so I think it depends on what they see the market to be for him. I think ultimately there's a high chance they might tag Griffin and trade him.
Yeah, I could see that. It could happen, man. Okay. That's an interesting thought. I'm gonna have to think more about that one. It's not one I considered before. Okay, so next up we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're sitting at 14th in cap space with 11.8 million available. Pretty good for pretty good for the reigning Super Bowl champs But I also suspect that means that they got a lot of guys hitting free agency. And so, you got Antonio Brown, Levante David, Shaq Barrett, Chris Godwin, Ndamukong Suh, and you even got Gronk in the mix there. All those guys are hanging out there. And so, it's similar kind of like to what I was saying with Seattle. Their goal is really to not use the tag because you don't want to put too much concentration into one guy when you've got that many holes that you got to fill. Hopefully, you can just kind of take that money and nail, two, three of these guys and kind of spread the love and keep your team somewhat competitive. Um, and really out of the names that I listed, I could see Gronk, maybe even Antonio Brown, entertaining some sort of a discount because, they want to play with Brady and Antonio Brown still kind of got to clear his name and get a track record again. Um, I, I think Levante David's a key piece of that defense, so I'd be shocked if they let him go, but it's just, it's tough, man. And then I've heard people are saying Shaq Barrett's actually probably the higher priority over Levante David. I'd have it the other way, but my preference for them would be to not use it. But if you're going to use it, hang on to Levante David.
So with Tampa Bay, and I hear what you're saying about Levante David. I think it's letting David or Barrett go would be mistakes. I think you want to run back as much of that team
Oh
as
yeah,
you. I think that they're going to work out deals with Barrett and David and figure that out. I think they're actually going to trade Godwin, or not trade him, tag him
tagging.
with
See ya.
with the potential tag and trade situation
Yeah,
with him. But I think that if they tag somebody, it would be Godwin. I'd put it at a 65% chance that that's what happened, that they actually use the tag on him. But I don't think they will. But I think that tagging and trading Godwin is an option there.
yeah.
Then again,
And
but then
Godwin
again,
made those
also,
comments about playing on the tag, but yeah, he's thinking I don't want to go anywhere, and you're thinking, well, if we're going to tag you, you're going to be gone.
see, the thing that gives me pause about the tag and trade is Brady recently had just come out and talked about how much he loved playing with Godwin.
Oh, gotcha.
So, I mean, that's an interesting thing there. They have the space, but they have 20 million and they have a bunch of guys they have to sign.
Yeah.
I'm hard pressed to say they tag and keep Godwin.
Yeah, it'd be tough. I don't think it's going to happen that way.
Yeah.
And if it did, I think it's a mistake, my opinion.
Hmm.
Okay, well, here we go. Last but not least, on the tag segment, we got the Washington football team. Fifth in cap space, 38.3 million available. These guys are in a solid position to improve their roster. Already, really, I mean, they had a phenomenal year, way better than I was expecting. The top guy available is their offensive guard, Brandon Scherf. To me, he's the no-brainer. He's got an 88 rating, and at 30 years young, still got a lot of playing time by offensive lineman standards. And after him, I got cornerback Ronald Darby, 83 rating. I just don't think it's attractive enough to spend that kind of money on a cornerback. And then also, like when you look at their defense, they've just put so much investment into that defensive line, so many first round picks that I just don't know that you want to pay a cornerback big money like that because when you build your defensive line like to such a premium level, you're expecting them to make mediocre quarterbacks good because they're getting so much pressure on quarterbacks. It makes the secondary's job easier. And it doesn't always work that way, but it looked pretty goddamn good for Washington last year. And so for me, I think it's as simple as you tag Scherf if you need to. Otherwise, you don't do it at all. But either way you do it with 38.3 million available, these guys are in a great position.
I think Scherf's the only candidate for them to tag. I think the only reason to use the tag on him is to give you the time to continue to work out the long-term deal. And I think that because of where we are in the time frame, you're hard pressed in like a week and a half to work out that long-term deal with him. So they tag him to work out the deal, the longer term deal, and go from there. I think also one of the interesting things is I could see them. I hate to say it because I love the comeback. I could see them cutting Alex Smith.
Yeah, I've heard some talk about, if he doesn't retire, maybe they try and I actually
Oh, he's
maybe
coming
they try.
back, I heard. I
Oh,
heard he
okay.
says he wants to play next year.
Okay.
And
Well, that's good to know.
and
I heard the last I heard was that if he wanted to come back, they might try to trade him or cut him, like you're saying. And I thought, man, like he was such a good story for that team, and they were winning games, man. They were winning games with him. Like, why would you not want him back?
I I know, but or is it wait, what? He has no did they cut him?
Uh-oh.
Uh
It's getting real. Yeah, see, I'm just showing that he's a cut candidate.
yeah, no, okay. So apparently he had an interview with GQ and that's what it was. I was like, no, did I miss it? Like, because it's like he has no animosity towards Washington, and I was like, what? So I thought they cut him.
Hey, we'll see what happens, man. You never know. I mean, if I'm them, I hang on to him. But, you
Yeah.
know, they got to look at a lot of quarterbacks anyhow, just to be safe. All right, so that's the franchise tag segment. Wrapping it up here, we got our question of the week. I didn't do anything too, thought provoking or risque this week. Just with all the quarterback chatter that's hanging out there, I just thought we would go back to the earlier part of the show talking about Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson and just keep it as simple as this. You got two top tier elite quarterbacks that you have very serious trade talk, whether it's them wanting out or other teams calling them or a combination of the two. So the question is, do you think one of them or both of them actually changes teams, or do they sit put for this season? I know that you were talking about Wilson maybe is a trade next year. Honestly, man, with this stuff, I really don't even know what to think. This is like unprecedented in the NFL. It just seems crazy to be talking either of these guys could be on the move. Um, I think that the situation is worse for Watson, but the team is just digging in their heels. And then I think with Russell Wilson disclosing those four teams that he wants to go to, you know, that's not a good sign either. And I mean, I guess, if I just had to make a prediction, I would say because there's two of them that this is going on with, I'm thinking odds are one of them does end up moving. It's just insane to think about it. What do you think, man?
So interestingly, both of them have no trade clauses.
Yeah, and they've kind of like both said, well, if I go here or here, I would waive my
Exactly.
clause. Yeah.
Exactly. Um, Unfortunately, you should have sent me this question earlier because I wouldn't talk so much about it at the beginning. Um,
I should do that. I've done it a few times, but yeah, next week maybe I'll get with the program.
yeah, because I think that definitely Watson's traded. I could see it as morning of the first round of the draft,
Yeah.
him being traded. But I think Casarius, whatever his name is just keeping notes on who's offering what and gonna pick up the phone and say, "You offered me this. I want this. Let's make a deal," because he's gonna come to his senses.
Yeah, he'll make
As
his
far,
shot on the draft day. Yeah.
yeah, as far as Russ, I think the only way Russ is traded this year before the season is after June 1st because that's when his dead cap hit goes down. Um, but if you're gonna if you're Seattle and you're gonna trade Russ, you're gonna want something back immediately,
It's got to
and
be Dallas.
they're not going to be they're not going to be draft picks this year. So it would be Dallas.
Yeah.
The thing with Dallas is even I have to look to find this out, but I think the deadline to sign. Oh, that's an issue. Because you have the deadline. I think it's like right there in the time.
I think I want to say it's July 15th. You're talking about to sign him to an extension?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's July 15th.
You might be right.
I mean, that's what it's historically
July
been, I thought.
July 15th at 4 p.m. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're good. So they would still have time because I thought it was closer to the June 1st because to do it, Dallas would have to tag back and then trade for Russ
Yeah.
and then have. I mean, it's convoluted, but that's the only way it happens. But I just don't see it happening this year
I gotcha.
for Russ. But I definitely see Watson happening this year.
All right. Well, hey, anybody who's still watching, let us know what you think. If one of these guys are going to be on the move, tell us why, and hit us up in the comments. James, in terms of our wrap up here, did you have any closing thoughts?
No, I hit all my thoughts earlier,
Nice, nice. Okay,
except for
good.
my closing thought. I've decided that if I were to pick another team to root for, it would be the Chargers.
Oh, with Herbert, yeah, I like that,
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
I still
Uh,
haven't decided if it's okay, but to abandon the Lions, but I'm getting close.
well, you could go two teams. You know, I mean,
I could.
yeah, I mean, they're opposite sides of the spectrum. So, all right. Well, hey, man, just remember, we got to come up with some shit for next week. So if you have thoughts this weekend on a topic, let me know. Obviously, we'll do like our weekly news and all that kind of stuff. But, if you got something in particular that you want to research and dig into, let me know, man.
All right, sounds good.
All right. So, hey, anybody who's watching, thank you. We love your support. So hit us up with that thumbs up, give us some comments. And if you really like us, hit the subscribe button. All right, James, I'll catch you later, man.
All right, have a good one.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.